Hey guys, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of new construction here in Florida. There's a lot of conversation out there about new homes, old homes, damaged homes, gotta fix them up. What should I do? If it's new construction, I might have to wait forever. I may not get everything I want. I may not be in the location I want. All of these things we're gonna be discussing when you're trying to decide what you wanna do about new construction in Florida. We're getting after that next. Okay, so you want to potentially get a new construction home. You're thinking, hey, I'm gonna build my dream home, right? Man, this is gonna be so much fun. I get to pick all my options. Yeah, it rarely goes that way. New construction is difficult at best. A lot of decisions to be made. Timing is gonna be a huge issue now. So a lot of things for you to consider now when you're looking into the new construction market, especially here in Florida. It can be super exciting to go through this process, but it can also be very stressful. Right now in our day and age, new construction for the Cape Coral area is going bonkers. I've been driving around just looking at properties. I was showing Andy a couple the other day, and he absolutely fell in love with a certain model. He said, there's no way I'm building. I can't do that from a distance. You know how crazy that would drive me? And right now, the timing of how to get this stuff done is very difficult. So we're gonna be addressing that in just a minute. But a couple other things that you wanna be considering if you're looking at new construction in Florida. Trying to read the market is like trying to read your partner's mind. It's not happening, right? I've never been able to figure it out, so I think it's kind of unlikely that most people will. But the best thing you can do is just get all the options, get the location, and get the type of home and the right amount of space from the get-go. Get the amenities you want up front, something that can be in the mortgage. So if you're considering a pool, maybe you want to try to squeeze it into the mortgage now instead of having to take a second later or pull cash reserves later. You're not going to have any equity in the home right away, so you can't pull a home equity to do it. Keep those things in mind when you're deciding on the new construction process for yourself. Now, for all of you out there who might have heard that the real estate market's falling out, there's all kinds of problems with it. I'll tell you this. Have the prices adjusted? Somewhat. I looked up new construction all over Cape Coral, and I took the pricing requirements out. I took the size requirements out, and I even took the pool off. So it's either going to be on it or not. There were over 500 new construction homes just in the MLS alone. Now, mind you, builders don't put all their stuff in the MLS. Many of the contracts they have will never have seen the MLS. So if 500 of them are the ones that we see scattered all over the place that are in the MLS, you might as well double or triple that number of what's actually going on right now. Because of that reason, it is also taking 6 months to get a permit to build. And if it's a custom build, it's gonna take you 2 years plus to get it done. I've got a couple clients that are in the midst of it. Gene, I know you're probably really over the top, just can't wait to get your home done because this one's been driving him nuts. There's a reason for it too, because when we talk about money and how you're affected when you get into new construction, you're gonna wanna hold tight and listen to what we have to say about that. Now, the pricing of these homes, you can get a new construction home just a hair under $300,000. This process of new construction, these are all cons. I mean, I know it sounds exciting to have the ability to do all these things, but the number of times I've seen people build a home from scratch and still miss things or forget things or saying, dang, why didn't I think about putting that in there? It's gonna happen. So weigh out the building process carefully if that's something that you're considering doing. Now, new construction has a huge advantage over resales. It's all done with today's building codes, right? So you're going to have the most credits towards your insurance, and you're gonna get probably the best insurance rates that you can get. So new construction does definitely have a benefit when it comes to insurances, and right now, especially in light of Ian happening last year, many of the builders are building the homes up higher so that they get further out of the floodplain. So even if there is flood insurance, it's going to be much less than it would be had they not increased the elevation. Now, timing is everything, right? We briefly talked about timing, how long it's going to take to build. There's many builders out there that do have inventory. One of our bigger builders here is D.R. Horton. They're going to be very basic homes, relatively basic. They've done a really good job with increasing some of the upgrades in the homes. You can see some of the touches in this home that we're in right now. This home is just over 2,000 square feet with a pool on a freshwater canal that doesn't go anywhere. This is also in the 600s, the upper 600s. That's kind of a median price right now. So if we start in the 300s and we're well over $1 million with many of the others, This is kind of where you're settling in the middle, especially if you want a pool. I tried to look up homes with pools specifically. You can't get one that is on water for less than $900. It's just not happening. The pools right now, if you're trying to put them on independently, you're looking at about $100,000. The cage alone is going to be $20,000 to $30,000. So we're going to talk about one thing that you can do if you run into some inventory homes and how you might be able to help yourself with the pricing. Now, timing, we started talking about the timing of the construction. You know how long it's going to take to build, right? Even the inventory homes are going to take you 6 months. There's something you need to know. There's something called a rate lock, and there's construction loans. Now, with a rate lock, you have a set period of time that your interest rate can be locked until it resets. If it resets, you get charged to make that adjustment. Be careful of setting that lock until you know for sure when the closing date is. Construction loans. Many custom builders require a construction loan. One of the drawbacks of a construction loan is as soon as you start taking draws, you are starting to pay interest on the amount of money that you're drawing. So you're not going to pay the whole thing at once. If you're building a $500,000 home and your first draw is $100,000 or $50,000, you're now paying interest on that $50,000 on a monthly basis. That continues until construction is over. Hence why I pointed out Gene. Gene is in a tough situation. His construction loan, it continues to charge him the interest as this construction gets drawn out longer and longer and longer. So the time frames that he understood as to when he was going to be finished aren't the time frames that are happening. So keep that in mind. Make sure you get some hard dates from the builder, and let's sit down and talk about these builders and some expectations you should have from them. If you go to visit a builder, please visit as many as you would like. But remember one thing, these people are there to get your information and market you until one of two things happens. You either buy or you die. I swear that's what they used to tell us all the time. I did new construction for 7 years. That's the mentality. So they will market you to death as soon as they get your information. So be certain if you're giving your information away, it's something you're interested in. And also, if you want representation from a real estate agent, you have to tell them at first contact. If you don't, you're not going to have representation anywhere outside. It's only going to be the salespeople sitting in that office. Now, overall transactions are down about 10% year over year, and the number of transactions is down about 15%. You want to know the irony of that? The foreign buyers, 23% of them were buying in Florida. So that's part of what keeps our market really fluid as well. Even if the people aren't coming from the normal sources, now we've got the foreign buyers back. Yeah, the travel's all opened back up since COVID went away, right? So they can start coming back again. And they're still infusing all this activity into our market, and they continue to push the pace of this new construction. You saw some of the new construction apartments that were going in and how big those buildings were. There's one complex that takes up a city block. It's just massive. But that's rentals. These homes that we're talking about are all for purchase. That over 500 that I mentioned, those are all single family homes that you can get a loan on and purchase. And they're under construction right now here in 2023. The other thing that's happening is investors have been jumping in on this. Cape Coral is so desirable because of the fact that we don't have an HOA for the city. So that means you can rent out your property, whatever frequency you want, as often as you want to. You can do annual rentals and secure that for the full year. You can do VRBO, Airbnb. You can do whatever you want because it's your home. They don't give you the guidelines for that. The only thing they ask that you do is register the home as a rental. So if there's any issues with the property, they'll know how to contact you. Anyway, these investors, they're coming in, they're buying up these homes. I started looking down through the names on the owners of the homes that were being built. And wouldn't you know, many of them are LLCs. Many of them are even real estate agents that are just building a home to flip. I know it isn't for everybody, but this is what's happening. Investors are grabbing these opportunities. Homes are still needed, and some of these are absolutely tremendous homes. Now let's talk about materials. I have a listing that took a little while to sell because it's a wood frame home, right? And everybody comes down saying, hey, I want a concrete block home. They just feel safer, it sounds safer, right? Here's the funny thing. If you want a 2-story home, that second floor is almost always wood. So even if you think you're getting a concrete block home, that's only the first story. The second story is wood. It's covered with stucco, which is like a concrete base that gets smeared all over the entire home to give it that texture, but the upstairs is completely wood. So if you wouldn't buy a wood frame home that's a single family that sits right on the slab, what's the difference with the 2-story? There really isn't. They're built to a standard to withstand Category 5 winds. That's why all the 2-stories, they didn't rip down when Ian came through, did they? That wasn't our problem. And those winds were literally 150, 155 miles an hour. So if it wasn't taking them down, it's nothing to be concerned with. That wood frame home that we had as a listing, it's under contract, and it withstood the storm just like concrete block. No more damage than any other home, just a little bit of roof damage, and that was it. Now, if you're thinking about doing the new construction where you're actually ordering from scratch, again, timing is going to be one issue. 2 is going to be the funds. The third issue, you're going to have multiple trips down here to make color selections, to make architectural changes if you're doing a custom build. There's going to be a lot of decisions to be made, and you can't keep changing your mind as you go through the process. A lot of people, they pick colors, then they're looking through magazines and they're checking out homes from where they're living now, and they see a color. Ooh, I want to make a change. Nope. Change orders are very, very hard to get done, because once you put that order in with the time frames that we're waiting for things right now, you don't want to mess that order up. So just understand, it's going to be a long process, it's going to be a detailed process, and sometimes it's going to be difficult because you're going to be doing it from afar. Now with inventory homes, if you have an opportunity to save some money for a feature, say, that you do not want, a lot of people now are deciding, I don't want a cage over my pool. It gives it a much more open feel. It actually allows you to take in the sun's rays when you're on the deck. I don't know if you knew this, but these screen cages that we have over top of our pools, they have a UV blocker in them. So you will not get an actual sunburn, suntan, the way you would normally do it, unless you remove it. Now, these cages right now start in the high 20s and low 30s and can be well up towards 6 figures, depending on the size of the decking that you're working with, how it's being reinforced. Do you have the big picture frame window style screens, or do you have a bunch of bars? All those things will play a part in the price. But the point is, if it's on the inventory home and it hasn't been put on yet, go ahead and negotiate to take it out, save yourself the $30,000. Now, there's some additional hazards when you're going through this new construction process. We like to drive the neighborhoods, see the homes being built. The builder might even give you a list of homes and say, hey, you can check these out on these streets. Watch the roads. Well, you can't really watch for this because I had one happen the other day. I ran over a screw or a nail or whatever the hell it was. So flat tire, right? Brand new tires too. So I decided to plug it myself instead of exchanging it. It's holding up well, but there was somebody else complaining about it the other day about all the nails in the roadways. With all this construction, there's going to be a lot of stuff in the roads. It falls off the trucks, it just gets dropped. So you might want to consider, at least, at the very least, having a spare tire ready to go in case you run over one of these nails. If you have been watching for any amount of time, then you know I can't stand the driving in this area. And these big trucks, these slow trucks, they don't stay in one lane. They'll use all the lanes. So you could be behind 2 and 3 of them that are blocking each of the lanes. So if you're trying to be in a hurry, once again, I've told you before, gee, you've got to be patient. I'm really working on being patient myself. But when these big trucks are there and in the way and just a constant burden, it could try your patience sometimes. But work your way through it. Again, during business hours, this will be happening, usually between the 7 and 5 hours. But outside of that, you don't really see a whole lot of it. One of the other things you might have a complaint about is the debris that's left on these construction sites. It can be all over the place, but many of the builders are very aware of it. They have bins, they try to keep it picked up. So it's getting much better. The code enforcement will make a stop to talk to them about it if that hasn't been taken care of by them. The other thing other than debris is vehicles. They're parked all over neighborhoods. They are parked on the vacant lots. They're parked up and down the street. So it can be a little bit annoying at times, but that's one of the challenges that we'll still be dealing with. Another one is noise pollution. Yeah, I was getting my roof done yesterday, and the compressor was going all day long. So it was definitely a little bit of a detractor, made a little bit of noise. Didn't bother me a whole ton, but yeah, I want to show you this pool out here. Since we talked about pools, they do have the cage around it. This one's on the freshwater canal. All right, so those are some of the pros and cons that you're going to be dealing with if you're looking at new construction here in Florida. Sure, there's going to be many more pros, many more cons. This is a brief list to give you an idea of what to expect if you're going to be jumping into that arena next. And if you're looking for more information about living in Florida or living in Southwest Florida, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, check out one of these other videos. And if you've got a specific question you need an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.